This is an Australian manufactured stone called PGH Stone. As you can see here, we've got a tight fit installation, which you can see on another video, but today we're going to focus on a grouted finish. First of all, we need to plan it and get our tools ready. So these are our 10mm plastic packers. We'll use these to create the gap between the stone for when we grout later on. Adhesive. Make sure your adhesive is suitable for large format and natural stone. The paddle mixer, a must use when mixing the glue for your stonework. Trowels for applying glue and for scraping off excess glue. This is our scraping trowel that we'll use to clean out the grout joints and finish off the stone. A dry cutting saw, you can also use a wet saw or a grinder. A wet saw generally will keep the dust down to a minimum, but you still need to use your PPE. A grinder, you will also need to attach a vacuum to the grinder to eliminate any dust into the atmosphere. Make sure the consistency of your glue is not too wet. Water right in that sweet spot between wet and dry. Okay, what we're doing here is stone selection. We need a vast array of colours. As you can see with this one, it's got that little bit of grey through to the white. And you get other pieces that are mostly just white. So you need to make sure that you lay stone out, different sizes, different shapes, so you know what you've got, and you know that when you put it on the wall, you're going to have a nice blend of colours, shapes and sizes throughout. In planning this, we need to just start from the corner. It's very simple. Work your way out from there using a nice array of stone and the 10mm packers as we go. So now we're going to install on the wall. You want to find a piece, something like this guy, that's just got a little bit of a flat edge to start with. Just makes it a little bit easier to get your head around what you're about to do and gives you a nice easy starting point. Get our glue, make sure your consistency is quite firm. Not too wet, not too strong, just sticky. And when you install it on the back, make sure you work it into the stone and cover the whole back of the piece of stone. Don't just do little dabs, because that will fail. Plenty of glue on there. And then onto the wall we go. Pop him on there, bit of a tap, and you're ready to progress across the rest of the wall from there. Once we've installed a piece of stone, we want to make sure we've got roughly a 10mm gap from the next stone. Won't be perfect. You might have a little bit smaller here and a little bit bigger there. If you need to, use your packer to just give you that guide or support the next piece of stone if needed. Right, so now we need to build up off what we've done from the base, where we'll need packers. So find the piece that you want to use, pop the glue on, pop the piece on the wall, and insert your packer, making sure it's stable. You might need more than one, might need one on the side as well, and that'll just hold it in place until we put the next piece on top. One of the other reasons we're using the packers is the weight of the stone. As we build up, that weight is going to keep pushing downwards, so these guys need to all be supported and secured. So when you add your packer in, that's supporting that, and so on as you go up the wall. Okay, so I've come to a point where I need to trim a piece of stone so it'll fit correctly with a nice amount of gap on it. So we've come to the saw. Before we do that, make sure you've got the right PPE, earmuffs, glasses, and a mask. we've cut our piece. We're going to sit right in there. So we'll get some glue on it. Now the reason I'm putting a packer here, because the stone's got a tilt on it. So without it, it's just going to slide down and close up that gap. So you want to make sure that any area that looks like it's putting force downwards or across, you put a packer in there. It's just going to make your life easy in the long run, and the things aren't going to start falling and spreading across the wall. Okay, now that's done. We need to let that set for about 24 hours. The glue then needs to harden properly to be able to take the weight of the stone. Otherwise it's going to compromise, it can crack, slide, fall off, and that'll be the end of your work. So tomorrow you can pull these packers out one by one and start the grouting process. Now it's time to grout. The glue's gone off on the wall, so those packers are ready to be pulled out. But first we need to mix the grout, which is a combination of beach sand, cement and clay. So in the bucket here I've got basically a 3-2-1 mix, 3 sand, 2 cement, 1 clay. And we'll mix that all dry first before adding any liquid. Alright, that just helps blend everything properly, so when you do add your liquid it's going to be a nice consistent mix. Next up, this is just water with a little bit of bondcrete in it. Just helps the cement bind together, and a cap of bicol, which helps the cement flow through the grout bag. Right, now it's quite a hot day, so I'm going to make this a little bit wetter than normal, purely because it's going to go off very quickly. So by the time I get it in there, I don't want it going off in the bucket. So it's always good to just test as well once you've mixed it up with your little grout bag. Don't overfill your bag. A couple of trowels is generally plenty. Don't put too much in there. Give it a twist and then a squeeze. That comes out pretty good. So time to grout. You can either pull all your packers out if you like, or you can do section at a time if that makes you feel more comfortable. I'm going to just take a few out at a time so we can get started and see how we go. You want to just overfill the joints a little bit because you've got to scrape it out. Make sure you get right into the back. When you come to a packer, just pull it out. Do that, add a bit more to your bag. Your mix can start going off, or if you do find it difficult to get out of the bag, you can always add a bit more water. If it's still not working, add a little bit more clay, that'll just help it flow as well. Okay, so there you have it, grouting's done. Just make sure you check and make sure you haven't missed any little spots like I just did there. Fill up any holes, and then you just need to let it dry. So this can take, depending on the day, it could be dry in about an hour, or it could be 3 hours. Best way to decide, just feel it. If it's sticky like this, then don't touch it. You want it so it's at a point where you can scrape it down and it's not going to be smearing on the stone basically. It's been drying for a while. We've got one more little process before the final clean out of the joints, and that's just running over it with your finger, seeing how wet it is and just taking off some excess. This will just help the joints dry a lot quicker and make it go a lot easier for you. Don't have to do a lot to it. Just make sure you're giving a little push. If there's any holes or whatnot that need filling, you can do that. But just give it a little smooth out and just take off the excess. Don't worry about all this stuff here, just let that dry because that'll just dust off later on. And that is all we really need to do with that. Just remember your grout joint needs to be a few mil in from the face of the stone. You don't want it flush. You want to just recess that little bit, give it a more authentic look. And now We'll let that go for a little while longer. Probably going to take another 10 to 15 minutes in this heat. So we'll come back then and do the final scraping. Okay, so the consistency now, it's just dry enough where we're able to use our scraping tool and scrape out these edges. So what we'll do with that, it'll help show the shape of the stone itself around the edges and help define everything once we've done the whole wall. Just follow the edge of the stone. It's going in just a few mil, nothing too massive. And just making sure that you get a little bit of consistency across the top of your grout joint. Run your finger back over to smooth it out if it's looking a bit rough. As we're doing that, we then can use this little guy, and that dusts off all the excess around the stone because it's just nice and dry. So all those little dags I was saying about before, they'll all just dust off. Okay, so that's done. Now we just need to let that cure for another 24 hours before you go hosing it down or anything like that, because it's still pliable, you can still work with it. So you can just keep an eye on it, make sure you're smoothing out little bits and pieces. One thing to bear in mind now though is that your grout joint looks dark, but over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours, that will lighten up significantly, so it'll be a really nice complement to the actual stone colour. But other than that, you are fine till tomorrow, and that is your Grouted Finish stone installation.